Grand Prix Germany at the Sachsenring was meant to be a weekend of promise for Marco Bezzecchi. Fate, however, had other ideas. The Aprilia rider, who started the 2026 season as the championship leader, saw his weekend cut short far earlier than he would have wanted. Bezzecchi suffered a horrific crash in Q2 qualifying just minutes after the session began. At turn 7, he lost the rear of his Aprilia RSGP and was launched into a brutal high side. He was thrown from the bike, tumbling several times through the gravel before coming to a stop. The medical checks delivered grim news. Bezzecchi had broken his left collarbone. He would need to return to Italy for surgery with Dr. Giuseppe Porcellini and was ruled out of the remainder of the German Grand Prix. This injury is a hammer blow to Bezzecchi. He'd started 2026 in stunning form, 3 wins in the opening 3 rounds in Thailand, Brazil, and the United States, leading every lap of each Sunday race. His 4th victory came at Mugello, a first home win for both him and Aprilia. But since June, it's all unraveled. He was involved in a start line incident in Hungary, suspended in Brno for slapping a marshal, and suffered a high-speed crash in Assen. Now, this injury at the Sachsenring adds to his growing list of woes. Amidst all of this, something darker has been brewing on social media. Talk of karma. The moment news of Bezzecchi's injury broke, a torrent of comments appeared online. A section of fans, particularly those backing Marc Marquez, began claiming that Bezzecchi's injury was karma for an incident a year prior. That incident occurred at the Indonesian Grand Prix in October 2025. Bezzecchi, trying to recover from a sluggish start, collided with Marquez. The crash caused Marquez a serious shoulder injury that required surgery and ruled him out of the final 4 rounds of the 2025 season. To this day, Marquez has never fully recovered from that injury. For some of his supporters, Bezzecchi's crash at the Sachsenring felt like a dose of poetic justice. On social media, they said that Bezzecchi's injury was karma for the MotoGP Indonesia incident last October. The narrative spread like wildfire. Bezzecchi, already in a difficult place, now had to contend with verbal abuse from fans who felt he deserved what had happened. But Marc Marquez was not about to stay silent. In fact, he was the first to defend Bezzecchi. Amid the social media storm, Marc Marquez spoke out, and his words stunned many, not because he was angry, but because he was standing up for his rival. There's no such thing as karma, Marquez insisted in the post-sprint victory press conference at the Sachsenring. He followed up with a remark that cut straight to the heart of the issue. I've been reading the word karma since 2015, and I've won 6 world titles since then. So if that's karma, bring it on. It was a pointed dig at those using the word to justify their hatred. Marquez reminded everyone that he himself had been the target of the karma narrative for years, especially since his feud with Valentino Rossi in 2015, yet he still went on to achieve greatness. For him, karma is an empty word. All of us riders take enormous risks out there. We wish Marco all the best. Marquez also revealed that he had already done similar after last year's Indonesian incident. I posted in Indonesia, don't put pressure on Marco because these things happen in racing. It's a side of Marquez that isn't always seen, a fiercely competitive racer, but one with empathy for a fellow rider in pain. He doesn't let rivalry or past grudges cloud his judgment. To understand why Marquez is so adamant in rejecting the karma narrative, you have to look at his own history with the word. Marquez points to 2015 as the starting point. That was the year of his infamous feud with Valentino Rossi, one of the most controversial disputes in MotoGP history. After the Sepang incident, Marquez became the target of mass hatred from Rossi's fans. He was called a traitor, a puppet, and worse. The karma narrative began to stalk him, the idea that one day he'd get his comeuppance. But Marquez didn't crumble. Instead, he came back stronger, winning 6 world titles after 2015. I erased the word karma from my vocabulary back in 2015, and I've won 6 titles since then. That experience has shaped how Marquez views racing and life. He knows racing isn't about cosmic retribution, it's about risk, hard work, and luck. Sometimes you're on top, sometimes you crash. If that's karma, then bring it on, he said with a sardonic edge. With his own bitter experience, Marquez feels a duty to protect other riders from the same kind of hateful narrative, and he doesn't want Bezzecchi to go through what he went through. Beyond rejecting the karma narrative, Marquez used the moment to highlight a far bigger issue: safety. He pointed out that Bezzecchi's injury was not an isolated case. The same pattern has happened repeatedly. Once again, Bezzecchi, Firmin Aldiger in Assen, and me in Indonesia, we all got injured because of the step between the asphalt and the gravel. Marquez was referring to the step or lip between the track surface and the gravel trap. When a rider runs off and hits the gravel, that height difference can violently throw both bike and rider, worsening injuries. Today we saw something we can fix for the future. He called for MotoGP and the FIM to improve gravel trap design. I hope Bez recovers quickly, but for the future, I hope we can improve these things. It shows that Marquez isn't just concerned about Bezzecchi as an individual, but about the safety of every rider. He's using his platform to push for meaningful change. Now, with a broken collarbone, Bezzecchi is ruled out of the Sachsenring and likely several more rounds. Bezzecchi's injury has major implications for the 2026 MotoGP title race. He started the season as the favorite, with wins in the opening 3 rounds and a 4th at Mugello. But since June, his form has nosedived. Now, this injury threatens to end his championship challenge. With Bezzecchi out, his Aprilia teammate Jorge Martin has extended his lead in the standings. Marquez, Di Giannantonio, and Agura are all closing in. Marquez himself won the sprint at the Sachsenring and cut the gap to 32 points. If he keeps this form up, he'll be a serious threat to Martin. For Bezzecchi, this is a devastating blow. From favorite, he now risks losing it all. But for now, recovery is all that matters. Throughout it all, Marquez has continued to show his support. "I feel really sorry for him," said Marquez. He wasn't just talking about Bezzecchi as a rival, but as a fellow rider who knows the risks and the pain of injury. Marquez also stressed that the focus should be on safety, not hate. Instead of talking about karma, we should be talking about how to prevent these injuries in the future. He reminded everyone that all riders take huge risks every time they go out on track. Every rider out there is putting their body on the line. Marquez's words were a call for unity. Amid fierce rivalry on track, he reminded everyone that off it, all riders are human, vulnerable to injury, and in need of support. While Marc Marquez focused on safety, his younger brother Alex offered a different perspective on Bezzecchi's crash. Alex, who himself hasn't fully recovered from a broken collarbone and vertebra sustained at Barcelona in May, believes Bezzecchi's physical limitations may have been a factor. He pointed to his own experience at Assen as proof that lingering injuries can affect bike control. Bezzecchi himself hadn't fully recovered from that heavy Assen crash 2 weeks prior. His physical limitations may have made it harder to control the bike when the rear began to slide at turn 7. Alex's analysis shows how a run of injuries can become a vicious circle. One injury leads to physical limits, which increases the risk of another crash. It's a bitter reality many riders face. Marquez also used the chance to analyze the performance gap between Ducati and Aprilia at the Sachsenring. After his sprint win, Marquez was asked if Aprilia would be a threat in the main race. His answer was blunt. No, tomorrow is Ducati's day. He explained why Ducati had the edge. Assen has a lot of fast corners. Here it's more stop and go, with fewer fast corners where Aprilia normally makes the difference. As I've said, you can't have the strongest bike at every track, but I believe, and I've said this since the first race, that Ducati is the best bike across 22 rounds. It's just that I can't always extract the maximum. It was a measured assessment, competitive but realistic about his bike's strengths and weaknesses. He didn't dismiss Aprilia, but he didn't doubt Ducati either. The German Grand Prix at the Sachsenring will be remembered not just for Marc Marquez's sprint win and pole position, but for his character in the face of a rival's tragedy. Marquez, often painted as cold and ruthless, showed his human side. He defended Bezzecchi from the hatred of his own fans. He rejected the damaging karma narrative. He used his platform to call for safety improvements. Karma doesn't exist, he said, and he's right. Racing isn't about cosmic payback, it's about risk, bravery, and sometimes sheer bad luck. Bezzecchi didn't deserve what happened. No rider deserves to be injured. Marquez reminded us all that behind the helmet, behind the rivalry, behind the fierce on-track battles, they are human. Humans who put themselves at risk every day to entertain us. Humans who deserve respect, not hatred. And when Bezzecchi recovers and returns to the track, Marquez will be one of the first to welcome him back. The world of MotoGP, above all, is a family. See you in the next video.